The confrontation between President Trump and his former fixer, Michael Cohen, continues to build. Cohen leaked a conversation with Mr. Trump he secretly taped about hush money for a Playboy model. Trump's legal team had experts review the tape for tampering. And Cohen said he'll talk to special counsel Robert Mueller about the president's denial he knew anything about that infamous 2016 Trump Tower meeting. Joining me now, the president's lead lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. Mayor, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you, Chris. Good to be with you.
I want to start with Michael Cohen, Mr. Trump's former lawyer, his former fixer. Here's what you said about Cohen a couple of months ago and the possibility that he might talk to special counsel Robert Mueller.
I expect that he is going to cooperate with him. I don't think they'll be happy with it because he doesn't have any incriminating evidence about the president or himself. The man is an honest, honorable lawyer.
Honest, honorable lawyer, but now you say Cohen is, quote, your words, a pathological lawyer, liar, right. Pathological lawyer, a Freudian slip, a pathological liar who's been lying for years. So what happened?
Well, here's what happened. I mean, I found out, as everyone else did, that he was surreptitiously recording his clients, which is a disbarable offense. Obviously, I knew that. I would never have said he was a reputable lawyer. I just said he was a scoundrel. I found out he not only taped lawyers, but he totally intended to deceive because he had a conversation with one of your colleagues, Chris Cuomo, in which he made a big show of putting his phone in a drawer, Cuomo's phone in a drawer, and said, we'll be off the record, no recording. He then proceeded to record 2 hours of that conversation. Makes him a total liar. I didn't know that. And now I've listened, unfortunately, fortunately from my client's point of view, to many, many hours of tapes. And the man is a pathological manipulator, liar. I didn't know that. I didn't know him well, but I knew nothing bad about Michael Cohen until all of this started to happen in the last couple weeks.
Mayor, how angry is President Trump about being betrayed by a man that he worked so closely with? And what does it mean, this talk now that their joint defense agreement is over? What's the practical effect of that?
Well, first of all, the president feels disappointed. I think the anger is over. You know, we've assured him in a very strange way this is a very good development for us because we do have all these tapes, and these tapes are completely demonstrate the president did nothing wrong. Cohen is on record over and over again stating his position. It could be hard for him to contradict that now. And he's done so many despicable things, his credibility is not an issue. The joint defense agreement is in effect over because he's making it clear that he's going to try to hurt the president. We can't give him information, and he obviously isn't going to give us information. That's all that it exists for.
Cohen's latest so-called revelation is that he reportedly is prepared to tell the special counsel, the Robert Mueller, that he was witness to a conversation in which President Trump knew in advance about the Trump Tower meeting, that Don Jr. and Jared Kushner, Paul Manafort were going to meet with a Russian lawyer. That contradicts what President Trump told the New York Times last summer. Take a look.
Did you know at the time that they had the meeting?
No, I didn't know anything about the meeting. But you know, you get it must have been a very unimportant meeting because I never even heard about it.
Now, the president repeated this week he did not know in advance of the Trump Tower meeting. But let's explore this for a moment. If, I repeat, if he did know, if in fact he did lie to the New York Times last summer when he said he didn't know, is there anything wrong with that?
Well, yeah, I guess there's something wrong with it on an ethical, moral basis. Nothing. If you got prosecuted for lying to the newspapers or the press, my God, I mean, Cohen should go to jail for 1,000 years. His tapes are filled with lies, including the most basic of all. He wasn't recording it. But no, he didn't lie to them. Cohen is reported, this is a leak now, so he may change it. Cohen, you have to pick the day to figure out the story. So Cohen said that he was present at 2 different meetings. He's present at a meeting with Donald Jr., Jared, a group of other people, in which they talked about the meeting 2 days later with the Russians. Then he says he was present at a meeting, the day of the meeting, in the president's office, in which either Donald Jr., Jared, or a few people came in and told the president. Every other participant in both those meetings say it is not true. There was no such meeting in advance. There was no such interruption. If he taped everything else, why the heck didn't he tape this? It's not on tape. And he's capable, I think, unfortunately, of doctoring tapes. Hasn't done that. Be hard to do it now, since we have an expert all over it. So it's just flat out untrue. And are you surprised he's lying? I mean, I would have been surprised back then, but now that I know all this about him, it seems to me his default position is to lie. He's a bad liar because he lies in contradiction to tapes, and he lies in contradiction to what I just said is probably supported by anywhere from 2 to 5 witnesses.
Is it fair to say, I mean, you have not been shy in what you said here, that you're at war with Michael Cohen now?
I don't know. I don't think we're at war with him. You know, obviously the real test here is the investigators, the Justice Department, and the American public. He doesn't get to decide this case. You know, I should say I feel sorry for him, but nobody will believe me. He's destroyed himself, Chris, as a witness. I prosecuted, 5,000 cases. I'd never prosecute a case on this guy's testimony. First of all, he talks to the press. He may be taping me. Second, he's contradicted so many times that, I mean, you begin your cross-examination by saying, which set of lies are you going to tell us today, Michael? Let's go through them now.
All right, let me pick up, because there was another big development this week, and that was the tape that Michael Cohen secretly recorded a conversation in 2016 that he had with Donald Trump before the election, in which there was a discussion of paying money to buy the rights to the story of Karen McDougal, a Playboy model who claims that she had a relationship with Donald Trump. Here's a portion of that tape.
I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with
So what are we going to
funding. Yes. And it's all the stuff, because, you never know where that company, you never know where he's going to be. Correct.
You say that Cohen violated attorney-client privilege by secretly recording a tape of his own client and then making it public. But Cohen's lawyer, Lanny Davis, came out last night and said, well, you've been talking about the tape, and since you talked about the tape, you have waived any attorney-client privilege.
Well, you've got to get the cart before the horse here. I mean, the reality is they leaked the tape, and then we quite clearly responded, which we're allowed to do under the court order. And the New York Times reporters who got the leak have confirmed that, which is unusual for them to do that. Maggie Haberman and Mike Schmidt. That leak did not come from us. The court order allows us to respond without waiving any privilege. After all, it's not my privilege, it's the president's privilege. If we have to defend him, that's exactly what we were doing. And it has been very helpful to us, because now we've been able to put out the whole transcript, which contradicts several things that Lanny Davis says. He's almost as bad as Cohen. I mean, he said that Cohen didn't intend to deceive when he did these tape recordings. What is it to take a phone, put it in a drawer, and tell somebody you're not recording them if it isn't an intent to deceive? I mean, these people tell Clinton-like lies that can be contradicted by tape recordings.
I want to ask you about, this is going to seem a little off topic, but it'll become relevant, Mr. Mayor, about Brett Kavanaugh, who is President Trump's nominee now for the Supreme Court. In 1999, Kavanaugh said of the case in which the Supreme Court ordered Richard Nixon to turn over the White House tapes, quote, maybe Nixon, the Nixon versus U.S. case, was wrongly decided. And in a 2009 article, Kavanaugh wrote this: like civil suits, criminal investigations take the president's focus away from his or her responsibilities to the people. And a president who is concerned about an ongoing criminal investigation is almost inevitably going to do a worse job as president. Question: is Judge Kavanaugh right on the law?
You know, I've looked at the law, and I really can't say those are legal opinions. Those are really just things he's saying. We don't see the authority. We don't see. I mean, I believe that the Constitution is clear that the president cannot be subpoenaed, or if he is subpoenaed, he has a right to challenge it on the grounds that they haven't exhausted all other possibilities, that they don't have other ways to get the information. There's a case, the Espy case, closest one you can find. He was a cabinet officer, and they said he could only be subpoenaed, in essence, taken away from his duties, if there was no other way to get the information. So the president would at least have that privilege. Whether he has a complete privilege and therefore can't be investigated at all, I really would have to do more research. I mean, there's a good argument that that's the case. Other law review articles have said that. It does exist as the law in most countries. The head of state has immunity until after he's out of office. But other countries, it doesn't. So that requires more analysis.
So, given the fact that that is Judge Kavanaugh's opinion, and given the fact that a legal dispute between President Trump and the special counsel might end up before the Supreme Court, would it be useful to have Judge Kavanaugh be Justice Kavanaugh?
No, I don't know Brent very well. I just know he's a person of very high integrity. I was a law clerk to a federal judge, and I argued in the Supreme Court, and I know that these off-the-cuff opinions like this, when somebody sits down and starts looking at the law, as I was just doing, he may very well go to the other direction. So I wouldn't count on Kavanaugh's vote on this. This is a question of first impression. And the Trump situation is very different than the Nixon situation. So I don't think we get an edge one way or the other. I think the Supreme Court is about as straight as you're going to get in our country. And this is going to be a case that they're going to have to decide in the first instance. And it doesn't happen if they don't subpoena him. And no president has ever submitted to a subpoena. Even Clinton, who was subpoenaed, they had to withdraw it before he would testify.
Mayor Giuliani, thank you. Thanks for sharing your weekend with us. Please come back, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.